Hello and welcome back to Invincible Asia. I'm George Clark and today I check out Game of Death 2, released on Blu-ray by Arrow Video. Don't forget folks, before we go any further, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, like the video and all that jibber jabber, and thank you very much for supporting Invincible Asia. So next in line from the Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest 4K box set released by Arrow Video is this 2K restoration Blu-ray release of Game of Death 2, also known as the Tower of Death, or originally known as the Tower of Death, I suppose. I'm a big fan of this movie. I've always loved this movie, whether it's as a Bruce Lee movie or just as its own kung fu adventure. I think it is a fantastic fight-filled film from Ung Si-yoon. I mean, you can't rarely go wrong with Ung Si-yoon. He's an amazing producer and a fantastic director. And I feel with Game of Death 2 or Tower of Death that he does a fantastic job. And as does everyone involved there. I think there's a great cast throughout it. Tong Lung does a great job. Yuen Biao doubles a lot of his stuff there, of course, again, as he did in the original Game of Death. And there's just a lot of fun to be had. It's definitely, I would say, definitely one of the more better made Bruceploitation flicks, of course. Even though it was promoted as the next Bruce Lee movie when it came out. Shamefully. But you know what? These were different times. I wouldn't imagine that this kind of thing would happen today, or you could get away with it today. Anyway, there was a lot to love on this. Of course, the Game of Death discs came in a set of 3. There was that much to enjoy with it. But equally so, with this, there are 4 versions of the movie on here to get through. Now, again, there's so much going on here. I mean, so as I say, you've got Ung Si-yoon directing, you've got Yuen Woo-ping choreographing the fights, Yuen Biao doubling, you've got a great cast in there with Lee Hoi-san, Hwang Jang-lee, Yoon Shun-yi, even Yuen Biao pops up as one of the Shaolin monks, and then the great Roy Chow reenacts his monk character from Enter the Dragon, because these are some of the clips that are reused and redubbed to fit into this movie to allow Bruce Lee to be a part of it. And dare I say it, probably more tastefully done than what was edited into and used in the original Game of Death, using clips from other Bruce Lee movies. I have to say this one definitely had a wee bit more care and attention doing that. So first off, I did watch the Hong Kong version, Tower of Death, Cantonese with English subtitles, of course. Definitely was a decent print and does look great for the most part, and that Hong Kong version runs at around 86 minutes, and I feel it was just enough. It was a pretty compact piece and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've seen it before, but I was excited to watch it again. I do enjoy this film quite a bit. It gives me vibes when it gets to that end of the early James Bond stuff. Of course, this time the tower, the pagoda as such, is talked about being upside down, underground, kind of like a gateway to hell. And instead of going up this time, he's got to go down, and it really works. I think it's a very, very cool take on a sequel, and I really do love what they've done with it. It's a very, very fun movie. I then also watched the international print, so that runs for about 10 minutes longer than Tower of Death, the Hong Kong version. Definitely has more Bruce Lee footage throughout it, including his kid roles, like footage from his movies as a kid, because they talk about him growing up. It's a bit of a tacky part, I mean, but it's still done pretty well there. And then they also have footage from Bruce Lee's funeral, from the real funeral, which has been done a numerous amount of times over that era with Bruceploitation flicks. But this one kind of does it in a bit more tastefully and a bit more of a memorandum, I suppose, and in honor of Bruce Lee throughout the movie, which is quite interesting. That international print also includes the new famous greenhouse fight, which with Casanova Wong, which of course appears in alternate versions of Game of Death, as I had explained in the last video. But it was great to see it pop up here, and it kind of made a wee bit more sense to some degree that it was there. Of course, directed by Sammo Hung there. I mean, it looks great with its 2K restoration, and its closing credits kind of are from one of the alternate versions of Game of Death. Sorry, I think the Hong Kong version of Game of Death, they used the closing credits for what they had with that. But I mean, absolutely a great movie overall, and the prints look fantastic. Although this isn't on a 4K disc, as the main movies are, it still looks the part and definitely cleans up well, as it had done on the Criterion box set, if I can remember clearly. I've only ever seen this via the Hong Kong Legends DVD in terms of a digital version. I did have an old video long time ago, but yeah, it definitely looks the part, and again, so much fun to be had with this. I've yet to watch the international version, again with the audio commentary from Frank Jiang and Michael Worth, but I will get into that because I do want to go back to it one more time. And the third version of the film that I watched was the Korean version of Tower of Death. Very, very interesting. Very different altogether, and definitely worth a watch. This is the shortest version of the 4 on here. It runs at about 72 minutes, but it kind of like cuts most of the footage of Bruce Lee out, and really focuses on Tong Lung as the brother coming into it here. Definitely quite a different movie altogether. Some extra footage in there, some new stuff I had never seen before. But yeah, definitely worth checking out if you are a fan of Game of Death 2 or Tower of Death, to compare those two versions and see what Korea delivers in kind of like taking Bruce out of it as such. Not completely, but just more than the other versions have done, and focusing on Tong as the actual hero of the piece. It's a pretty cool show, and again, it runs for 72 minutes, so it's not gonna like eat your night up if you really have already watched 2 or 3 versions of this movie. Then there's the alternate US version. This was interesting and probably my least favorite of the edits, I have to say. It replaces a lot of the Enter the Dragon shots used throughout with clips from other Bruce Lee films, and it runs for about 94 minutes, so similar to the international version, pretty much. But it is an absolutely great HD transfer, and yeah, very, very similar to the international print, but I think that the international print, that is the main focus on this, was actually better, had better Bruce Lee cutaways, and those Enter the Dragon ones really fit in well. They actually made it work, whereas I feel this US alternate version, they've just kind of threw little bits in here and there from other movies, and much like the original Game of Death, they look out of place. They are recognizably not part of that movie, whereas they did a fantastic job with the original piece there, I feel. There's also some cool alternate closing credits there that run for probably about 6 minutes, and it's a full, pretty much a full cast call, with footage running throughout the credits there, and it's quite a lengthy, as I say, for 6 minutes, it's quite a lengthy closing scene, but it's neat to see. It's pretty nice to see. I don't know why they didn't include it on one of the actual cuts there. It would have been cool to just extend that a wee bit longer there. Anyway, let me pop this open here to finish with you. So of course there is also a fun selection of trailers as usual there. One of these is an early promo for Tower of Death. It's pretty much presented in its original raw 16mm print, which looks cool, very, very grindhouse, but then it also replaces it with a reconstructed version and restored in 2K. So watch that first, just let that quality sink in, allow that to really just sort of like sit in your head for a wee moment, and then go into the reconstructed restored version of the same promo. It'll just blow your mind. It is incredible to see these pretty much side by side. I really, really loved it. It was fantastic. And then also on that there, you have got a Bruceploitation collection of trailers, which is wonderful as always. Very much focusing on a lot of Bruce Lee movies, and they run for around 25 minutes in total, which was pretty cool. Again, I love seeing these things, and it's just another added bonus, considering, again, this for me is probably one of the best and most polished Bruceploitation films ever made, hands down. What else? Of course, then there is again a lengthy image gallery in there. Of course, there are, with many promotional and film shots, as well as, oh, I almost forgot, an archival interview from 2001 with the late Roy Horan, who's just a wonderful man. I think it's taken from Hong Kong Legends DVD and runs for about 24 minutes. I have seen it before, but it was very, very cool to see again. And that's pretty much everything that is involved here on the Game of Death 2 Tower of Death disc. Jesus, I can nearly talk tonight. 4 versions of the movie. I mean, I had an absolute blast. I watched every one of them back to back. That's how much fun I had with this one. One more to go. So thank you once again for watching another video here on Invincible Asia. Don't forget you can check out hundreds of others here on the channel. You can also show your continued support by heading over to my new merch store or by checking out invincibleasia.com, where you can read my full movie reviews and follow me on Instagram @InvincibleAsia. Until next time though, enjoy your Kung Fu and I will see you soon.